I'm Erika Alexander.
And I'm Tony Puryear.
And we're Concrete Park. And you're watching Creative Continuity.
Creative Continuity at New York Comic Con 2014. Get the latest news directly from comic book artists and writers. Tune in for Creative Continuity's coverage of NYCC. We bring the convention to you.
I'm Mark Arnold. I'm here with the creators of Concrete Park, Erika Alexander and Tony Puryear.
Erika's brother Robert had this great title, Concrete Park. I'm from New York City. I grew up right here in town, and all the parks I went to were concrete parks.
Yeah,
and it's one of those great oxymorons like military intelligence. So that title really inspired us, and we started jamming, and we started talking about this world that was like an Australia in space, where Earth had shipped its poor youth underclass off to this other planet to mine for resources, the way the British did with the Irish potato famine victims and their criminals and everything in the 1800s. So we made a story of exile, a story where these young Earth people are never going home. They can look up in the sky at night and see a star that they think is our sun and our solar system, but they're never going home. So in this new world, are they going to reproduce the violence and the tribalism and the hatreds they left here on Earth, or are they going to make something new and maybe even something beautiful? That's what Concrete Park's about.
How did you create these characters? Were they based off real life people that you know, or were they just something you made up to make the story work?
No, they're basically things we make up. I have to say that we're very inspired by A City of God, which we really loved. We loved the feel and the mood of it. Obviously, the story of the transportation in Australia, the British sending their people off there. But Luca is out of whole cloth. She just looks like she should be there. And I think after a while, when you sort of put down the playing ground and how the place looks, Scare City, Tony came up with this great name, Scare City. After a while, it starts to suggest the type of people who would live there. And Luca's one of them. We knew we would have factions or gang leaders. We knew we needed somebody who was really tough, but we wanted her to be beautiful. We wanted her to also be accessible. Because this is a comic book, but we needed her to look different. So Tony drew her, but Luca, this person who would be able to command her own gang, but also be a leader among men, would need to be fierce. So that's she comes from out of our minds. The same with Jean-Pierre and
all the gang leaders, yeah.
Isaac. We knew we had to put a lot of different people in the mixture to make something interesting. So the truth is, what came first was this really hard space, and then we created, the characters came from that.
It's in the genre of science fiction, because that kind of speculative fiction allows you to really stretch out a little bit and ask all those questions like, what if? What if there were shapeshifters? What if there were people who came back after dying? You start to be able to tell morality tales in science fiction, very much like Star Trek. What's the right thing to do when you're choosing between competing harms or competing goods? So the genre, first of all, would be science fiction. So we directed it for our kind of science fiction fans. We love science fiction. We love a good adventure story. Erika brought up before, the factions and gangs. There is a sense in which this is like Game of Thrones, a big recognizable world. It's alien, it's different, but it's very human. It's very much us. Yeah. And the greed, the things that drive people, sex, power, greed, they're all going to be there in the book. So anybody who likes a good Rip Snorton adventure tale, I hope, would like this. We just ran into a guy who says he's going to be teaching this book in a home for kids who are sort of in the penal system, because the metaphor for this thing is prison and incarceration. And I'd love it if teens would pick this book up. I think I don't think it's for young readers, but because of the adult themes. But I definitely would hope teens would read this book and maybe see themselves.
This is also a very political book. It's a sexy book. It has, gorgeous people in it, but we like to think that it's colorful in a way that when you go to some place that's a little tough, you start to really look at it and see that maybe all that you have is how you are, your personality.
By the time our new 5-part miniseries finishes, we will have set the table with more than 100 major characters. So in that regard also, it's got the ambition of a Game of Thrones or something, where some will live and some will die. I hope you get attached to these guys and cry when they're gone. After the 5-issue miniseries, we hope to explore bigger parts of this world and keep on going. This is a creator-owned book. We're not working on the Spider-Man franchise. We're not working on somebody else's tracks. Yeah. We're making the tracks. We're making the railroad train that runs down, but we're laying the tracks too. It's a great responsibility, but it's so freeing. you know, Dark Horse, they really have backed a lot of great creators. We're very lucky to be part of that thing. They took a look at our book. They basically just said, just make the best book you can make, go. So we're enjoying very much writing the series. We're both writers. You know, I've been writing pictures for 25 years. I wrote that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Eraser. You know, Erika's a writer. Erika's working right now on a script about the Boys Choir of Harlem. She got the rights to the story of the Boys Choir of Harlem. So we're screenwriters by trade. She's an actress, obviously. People know her as an actress. But this is a different kind of writing. It's very freeing and liberating to work on your own stuff.
It's freeing. You know, it's so funny because the whole idea of the internet and this type of thing with your generation of having a space where you create your own, like YouTube, is new. But for Mike Richardson, it's what he did. He looked at people who we thought should have their own comic book, but they couldn't get deals with the majors, and he created Dark Horse. So in a way, there were pioneers who talk about laying tracks for creators and independent minds and new types of characters and new types of ways to do things. So it's good that we're here in a way, but we really are with some wonderful heavy hitters, from Mike Mignola to Frank Miller to Raphael Albuquerque. We have amazing creators here. The fact that we're here at all, we feel like we just
won the lottery.
Yeah, won the lottery, and we're grateful because it's not especially if you work in Los Angeles or Hollywood in studios where they have ways to do it. They have the people they wanted to do it, and they hire you to do it, and then they sort of, if you don't do what they want, they replace you.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, you know what, it's your thing. If it goes, it goes, good, bad, or ugly, it's your thing. And they try to help you make the best thing that you can make. But there's no place to complain, there's no place, this is it. So we're really happy, but it's extremely stressful because once you do have that responsibility, you have to produce. And the schedule is brutal.
I'm Mark Aronoff. This has been Creative Continuity on New York Comic Con with the amazing Erika Alexander and Tony Puryear.
I'm here with Victor Ochoa. Can you tell us about your comic books over here?
Yeah, well, these two are anthologies I put together with a bunch of other creators from around the world, and they each have short stories, and this is our most recent one that got funded through Kickstarter. It's called Nobodies, and this is volume 2, and we just sort of want to push the comic medium and have new and cool, interesting stories.
What is Nobodies about?
It's about whatever people want. It's just sort of the theme of Nobodies. It's the idea of, you know, we're not really anybody in the comic book industry, but we sort of have stories to tell.
Toxic City.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting name. I like it. What is that one about?
That one's a book that I wrote and drew. It's a noir thriller, revolves around a murder mystery, sort of deals with how strangers affect each other with bad decisions, and it sort of just builds up until something horrible happens in the end.
What sort of bad decisions?
You know, like murder, sex, drugs, things like that. So
All the good, juicy stuff.
All the good stuff, you know, the usual. So.
Are you working on any other new projects in the future?
I'm working on a couple of things. I'm sort of dabbling in children's books right now, so none of this violence.
Okay, so I was going to say you go from violence to children's books.
Yeah, I'm actually a designer in children's book publishing. But yeah, I'm working on some children's books right now, and then I'm also working on some other things with creators. One of them's called Human Resources, so it deals with how a human resources company actually controls the world and what goes on with that.
Where fans can find your work online?
Yeah, you can go to drawmoreinc.com, so that's DRAWMOREINC.com, and at my website you can look at other artists' work there, and any news and updates will have that there.
I'm Yana Aronova with Creative Continuity at New York Comic Con with Victor Ochoa.